Name one reason for the king's request. Why did the king request of the wise men? Interpret the dream. Good. Anyone else got a different reason? He was troubled by the dream. Good. And we're not told this in the text, but I think it also could be he was testing the wise men. Number 2. You get a choice on this one. Either tell the theme or part of the memory verse for chapter 1 and chapter 2. So what was a theme of chapter 1? Okay, what was the memory verse? Anybody remember it? Harley quoted it pretty good a couple weeks ago. It was, Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the king's food or delicacies. And I may have messed it up. That was best my memory. All right, what was the theme for chapter 1? Daniel selected. Good. Anybody got another theme for chapter 1? All right. And chapter 2, what would be the theme of chapter 2? Nebuchadnezzar's dream. That's a good theme. I would say future kingdoms predicted. The memory verse for that was Daniel 2:16. Daniel went in and he asked the king to give him more time. Anyone else got another theme for chapter 2? Okay, our next question. When did Daniel know the dream and its interpretation? When God told him to him. Okay, good. After he had prayed. Good. And here's a tough one that you may not have caught. After he had already promised the king. What if he had promised the king, I'm going to tell you the interpretation, and then God doesn't give him the interpretation? But he had that much faith in God. Number 4. What were the 5 kingdoms that Nebuchadnezzar dreamed about? Number 1, Babylon. Number 2, Medes and Persians, or if you want to throw it together, I call it Medo-Persia. Number 3, Greece or Greek. Number 4, Romans. And number 5, the kingdom of God or the church or Christians. Good. Those are, I can't emphasize enough, those are worth putting to memory because they will help you understand Daniel, but really, they're going to help you understand the whole Bible if you know those kingdoms. Because ever since we go into captivity, the Jews go into captivity, the rest of the Bible is going to be dealing with those 5 kingdoms. All right, our final question on the quiz. What represented the kingdom of God in Nebuchadnezzar's dream? The rock. The rock... and I'm going to give some more details. The rock not cut by hands, the rock that hit the statue, the rock that never ends. That kingdom never ends. It's eternal. Okay. Now it's time for our homework. So for our homework from chapter 3, did anybody get a chance to memorize Daniel 3:18? Okay, we can keep working on that. That is the passage that says, we will not serve your gods, nor will we worship the gold image you have set up. All right. Did anyone get a chance to read Daniel 3? Good, good. I'm glad I got more yeses than on that. And I got some guilty faces too. I won't call names. All right. An outline. Someone tell me what was the first point you put in the Daniel chapter 3 outline. King Nebuchadnezzar made an image of gold. Good. And I'm going to tell you what my chapter headings are. The first one it has is Nebuchadnezzar's golden image. Okay? Second, the Chaldeans. Is that what you said? Yeah. My second chapter heading is the fiery furnace. But before I get to the fiery furnace, I would probably say worship the golden image. But you could do the fiery furnace. You could do the Chaldeans. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are accused. I like that as a good one. All right. And does anybody have a third? Maybe for the third you'd do fiery furnace, or Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were put in the fiery furnace. And then for the fourth, and fourth is not required, this is just bonus points. I would say Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are saved by God. No right or wrong answers on this, guys. It's just how you break up the chapter. All right, on the back of, yes, sir.
Would you want to explain the fourth man in the fire?
Yeah, that would be great. Oh, you want me to explain it? I thought he was volunteering. Okay. Yeah, we'll get there in a minute. We're not there yet. On the back of your page, I gave you this little graph. I just thought it was some good information of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, their Hebrew names, their Babylonian names, and their history. Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, and their history. Okay, last week we started chapter 3, and we made it through point number 1. So we're at Roman numeral 2, if you're filling out the outline. Okay. But before we get into our actual text, I'm going to let y'all help me by you answering some questions. He's got some questions here that I don't think you know the answer to. I'm testing you. Let's see if you know these, because they're not in the text. They're history questions. Okay, so we're going to start with some history. This was about 587 BC. 4 Jewish men held high positions in the court of Nebuchadnezzar the king. Oh, you know this one. Why had they been given such important positions?
God's will.
God's will. Good. I like that answer. What else? Their faithfulness. Good. They were found superior to everyone else. They were tested in 2 ways in chapter 1. One was the food, and the other was the mind. And they were superior to everyone else. All right, next question. How long have these men been in Babylon? Now, that one I don't know that you'll know. Any guesses? How long do you think we've been since chapter 1? How long have they been in Babylon? Testing period was 3 years. Yep. And we had them at about age 13-ish when we started that testing period. We believe it's been about 18 years. And you can get pretty close on that because of who's king and how long he's king and those kind of things. All right, now in chapter 3, here's some questions for you. What did Nebuchadnezzar build? An image of gold. What were its dimensions? 90 by 9 in American feet. And in your text, it would say 60 by 6, which here's how they measure. So you got about an 18-inch average arm span. So 18 times 60, 18 times 6. So 90 by 9. And last week I told you, ooh, Bryce, I forgot to have you throw any PowerPoints up yet. Why don't you go ahead and skip to the second PowerPoint, chapter 3. I ran out of time for chapter 1. Last week I told you my belief on which type of statue it is. Do you remember what I think it is? An obelisk. I think it was an obelisk. Because if it was an image of Nebuchadnezzar himself, that would be very strange proportions to be 90 by 9. So more likely it's an obelisk like at the Vatican, or Cleopatra's Needle in London, the obelisk in Egypt that date back further than this, or our obelisk in Washington that we have. Okay, we'll leave it there for now. Next question. Now, that is as far as we got last week. These questions are going to have to require you to check the text. Well, I haven't taught you anything further. When the image was finished, the king held a dedication ceremony. Who was invited to the ceremony? Good. Prefects and governors. What does he tell these officials to do? Daniel chapter 3, around verse 5-ish. Bow down and worship when they hear what? When they hear a whole bunch of instruments. Okay. And what does this verse imply about the purpose of the image? If they were supposed to bow down and worship it, what does that tell us about the image? What was its purpose? It was a god. Yep. Even if it was Nebuchadnezzar himself, he is calling himself a god. If it's an obelisk, whatever it is. I was thinking as I was talking to Ron last week, you know, we got something similar to obelisk that the Jews worshipped. Do y'all remember what tall, skinny things they worshipped a lot? They would worship the Ashtaroths a lot. Bel and Ashtaroth are the two main things that the Jews would wind up worshiping other than God. Bel was depicted as a cow. Ashtaroth were tall, skinny things. A lot of times trees or posts. What did our natives have similar to that? Yeah, totem poles. So worshiping a pole is a golden pole is what Nebuchadnezzar is wanting them to do. So, all right, I'm going to pause there, and now let's actually get into the text. Okay. Our second Roman numeral is the decree. And first we're going to notice the proof. There's a Babylonian document from the time of Nebuchadnezzar. It's from somewhere between 605 and 562 BC that warns not to harm the statue that has been set up. Beside my statue as king, I wrote an inscription mentioning my name. I erected for posterity. May future kings respect the monument, remember the praise of the gods. He who respects my royal name, who does not abrogate my statutes and not change my decrees, his throne shall be secure, his life last long, his dynasty shall continue. So Nebuchadnezzar writes a document that we have found that tells people, I built a statue and you better not get rid of it when I'm gone. When you become king, if you want your life to go good, do not remove or desecrate my statue. Could it be the very statue we're talking about? It very well could be. All right. Second, gather together government officials. Let's read chapter 3 of Daniel. And we only made it through the first verse last time. Then King Nebuchadnezzar sent together verse 2, chapter 3, verse 2, Daniel, sent together the satraps, the prefects, the governors, the counselors, the treasurers, the justices, the magistrates, and all the officials of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then the satraps, the prefects, the governors, the counselors, the treasurers, the justices, the magistrates, and all the officials of the provinces gathered for the dedication of the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. And they stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. And the herald proclaimed aloud. I'm going to pause there. We're going to talk about all those names in a minute. So wait on that, but let me pause for a moment. The what proclaimed aloud? Herald. Remember, I talked about a herald Sunday morning, and I think that was in morning Bible focus, if I remember. Sorry, I talked a lot Sunday. We talked about a herald. Who was that herald? It was a messenger of who? Of God. So when we talk about preachers, one of the terms for preachers is a herald. It's a messenger of Noah. That's who it was. Noah was a herald of righteousness. And the word herald means a messenger of God. Or, specifically it means a messenger of a king. When we're talking about God, He is a king. He is the greatest king. And so preachers can be called heralds because they're messengers of God. So right here you have an example of a literal herald. He was the messenger, the spokesman, the mouth of the king. Hear ye, hear ye. And now we do. Hear ye, thus saith the Lord. So herald, there's an example there of what Noah was. But Noah was for God, and this man was for Nebuchadnezzar. So that goes back to that was sermon, not morning Bible focus. I had a fun day Sunday. I spoke in morning Bible focus, then class, then sermon, then Lord's Supper. So it kind of gets confusing. It was a good day. Herald of the king. Okay, now let's get back to our reading. So the herald proclaimed aloud, "You are commanded, O peoples, nations, and languages, that when you hear the sound of the horn, pipe, lyre, trigon, harp, bagpipe, and every kind of music, you are to fall down and worship the golden image that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. Whoever does not fall down and worship shall immediately be cast into the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, as soon as all the peoples heard the sound of the horn, pipe, lyre, trigon, harp, bagpipe, and every kind of music, all the peoples, nations, and languages fell down and worshiped the golden image that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up." So he gathers together his government officials. Who all is listed here? Well, I'm going to give you the quick answer. It's hard to really know the names, the meanings of all these different jobs, because he mentions Persian names and Aramaic names. So that kind of shows you the time period we're living in, where they've got government offices from multiple cultures and multiple languages even. He uses more than one language here. But I'm going to give you some definitions we do know. A satrap is a leader of a province. And if any blank I miss, I'm going too fast for you, ask me, please. Because I forgot to bring the blanks, so I don't know what you're writing. All right, number 2, administrators. Number 3, governors is someone below a satrap. Counselors are court counselors. Treasurers are in charge of the royal treasury, especially all the booty from wars. So they go fight all these wars. These are the people that get to deal with all the stuff they bring back. Judges, magistrates are types of judges and officials. Then he tells them that he's going to play all kinds of instruments. We've got a horn. We got a flute. We've got a harp. We've got a lyre. And we've got a psaltery. And he tells them they're supposed to bow down when they hear these things. But next comes the disobedience, Roman numeral 3. And let's read it, and then we're going to go through the points. "Therefore at that time certain Chaldeans came forward and maliciously accused the Jews. They declared to King Nebuchadnezzar, 'O king, live forever. You, O king, have made a decree that every man who hears the sound of the horn, pipe, lyre, trigon, harp, bagpipe, and every kind of music shall fall down and worship the golden image. And whoever does not fall down and worship shall be cast into a burning fiery furnace. There are certain Jews who you have appointed over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, pay no attention to you. They do not serve your gods or worship the golden image that you have set up. Why would they disobey? Why would they disobey this order? That's right. Bow down to a foreign god. And what does one of the 10 Commandments tell us? That's right. No other god before me.
So what's that thing about their parents that taught them?
Yes.
Because if they were taken at the age of 13,
Yeah. There's a lot of similarities between Daniel and Joseph. Joseph's another example of that. There's a lot of similarities between them, one of which is how much had they and him be taught before this young age that they're taken away from everything to hold on to it. And yet they remember a lot of their raising, even though they don't have their parents, they don't have their Hebrew scriptures, they don't have those things, but they still know right from wrong. Leviticus chapter 26, verse 1, you shall not make idols for yourself or erect an image or a pillar. You shall not set up a figured stone in your land to bow down to it, for I am the Lord your God. That is almost directly what he built there, and they were told you cannot worship it. Who was turned in for disobeying? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Hebrew names? Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Who was not turned in? Daniel. So number 3C. Why was Daniel not turned in? What do y'all think? He wasn't required to attend it. He was away. Actually, both of y'all's answers are the exact two I'd written down. He was either on business of the king somewhere, or he's not one of the ones that he's above this requirement. Because you notice there's a whole list of who has to come and bow down. His ranking was above that list. He's ranked higher than them. So those are our two options. We don't know which one is true. Actually, I got a third option for you. They could have been afraid of Daniel. He could have been so high up that they didn't dare try to accuse him, because he was third in command of the kingdom. The reason I say third in command is Nebuchadnezzar has a co-regency. He is a co-king, but other than the king, he's the second in command. So there's two kings, Daniel. He's the third in command of the kingdom. Now let's see what happens to them. Shadrach, verse 16, Meshach and Abednego answered and said to the king, O King Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If this be so, I don't think I got that far, did I? No, verse 13, excuse me. Then Nebuchadnezzar in furious rage commanded that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be brought. So they brought these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar answered and said to them, Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the golden image that I have set up? Now, if you are ready when you hear the sound of the horn, pipe, lyre, trigon, harp, bagpipe, and every kind of music, fall down and worship the image that I have made, well and good. But if you do not worship, you shall immediately be cast into the burning fiery furnace. And who is the God who will deliver you out of my hands? Now, we're going to see, and it's very hard to interpret Nebuchadnezzar, because we're going to see times where he does things extremely evil, and then times where he does things very godly. And so there's this dichotomy, which I think all humans have some mistakes we make. But sometimes he's very evil. He's about to be very evil in one verse from now. But right now he's very kind. Because what was his original command? If you don't do it, you will burn. And what does he do? He gives them a second chance. That's not legal. Nebuchadnezzar, every word he said was law. There was no taking back what he said. So once he said it, it had to happen. But he changed the law by giving them a second chance. And He offers them this second chance. But the second chance doesn't even happen. He said, I'm going to blow it all again, and you're going to get a second chance. And if you don't, let's see what God can stop me. Well, guess what? They don't even tell him to take the second chance. They say, no need. We're already going to give you our answer. Let's read. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If this be so, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But if not, be it known to you, O king, that we do not serve your gods or worship the golden image that you have set up. They said, no need for a second chance. We're not going to change. If God saves us, he saves us. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But either way, we're going to serve him. Then Nebuchadnezzar was filled with fury, and the expression of his face was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He is out of control in his rage. He ordered the furnace heat 7 times more than it was usually heated, and he ordered some of the mighty men of the army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and to cast them into the burning fiery furnace. These men were bound in their cloaks, their tunics, their hats, their other garments, and they were thrown into the burning fiery furnace. Excuse me. Because the king's order was urgent and the furnace was overheated, the flame of the fire killed those men who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell bound into the burning fiery furnace. All right, so we're still under point number 3, and the fourth D under that is they were cast into a kiln. I'm going to explain that more, but I want to ask you a question here, and let's have you describe to me the fiery furnace. What are the facts we know about it? It was hot? Okay. What else? 7 times hotter, so what does that mean? There's a way to adjust the temperature, isn't there? Okay, what else? They cast them, how? I heard y'all, so I'm just going to repeat it because I didn't hear you. I heard you, but I didn't hear the words. They cast them down, so what does that tell you? There's a hole on top of this furnace. Now, in our next paragraph, and I'm not going to get there yet on this point, so I'm going to go ahead and give you the answer. He also is able to look in. So there's a hole on top and a hole on the side. That's why I call it a kiln, is because every picture, every image that we have matches this. Throughout the world, when people would build these, they were always in this manner, where they had a hole on top and a door on the front. Image after image. I think that might be my last one. Is it, Bryce? Oh, and there's someone inside. I don't know if her spouse cast her in. I don't know how she got down in there. But there's no way to get out, maybe through that little tiny door. Yeah, it looks like the doors are big enough to get in. Now, do you know what these are used for? That's right. They're used for baking. I'm going to try to come up with a different word than pottery. Clay, baking clay and things like that. Bricks, stones. What had Nebuchadnezzar just built? A giant image, 90 foot tall, at least covered in gold, maybe solid gold. And do you think he needed some way to melt the gold, to make the stone, to build this image? And so very likely, this is what, not this one in the picture, but this is what had just built the image. And they didn't bow down to the image, so he tossed them into there. He is raging. He's out of control. He heats it 7 times hotter than you would if you were actually cooking something in it. He has them tied and bound, and he has his soldiers go up to the top and throw them in. And because he is completely nuts at this point, no self-control whatsoever, what does that do to the soldiers? It kills them. Now, you think he's nuts? Wait till you read the next paragraph. He goes down to that, I'm going to call it a door. The Bible doesn't tell us there's a door, but he goes down to the hole at the bottom, and he's watching. Talk about an evil guy. I mean, if you're so angry that you want to watch people die, ooh, I want to watch them burn. You know, he's standing down there watching. Let's read it. Then King Nebuchadnezzar was astonished and rose up in haste, and he declared to his counselors, "Did we not cast 3 men bound into the fire?" They answered and said to the king, "True, O king." He answered and said, "But I see 4 men unbound walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt. And the appearance of the 4th is like a son of the gods." How does he know this? He's watching in the fire. He wanted to watch them burn up. Then Nebuchadnezzar came near the door of the burning fiery furnace. He declared, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out and come here." Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out from the fire. And the satraps, the prefects, the governors, the king's counselors gathered together and saw that the fire had not had any power over the bodies of those men. The hair of their heads was not singed, the cloaks was not harmed, no smell of the fire had come upon them. Nebuchadnezzar answered and said, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who sent his servant and delivered his servants, who trusted in him and set aside the king's command and yielded up their bodies rather than serve and worship any god except their own God." I may not have time for that decree, so I'll stop before verse 29. Point Roman numeral 4, the deliverance. Did they know they would be delivered? No. They said if God delivers us, he does. If he doesn't, he doesn't. They believed he could. That's right. How did they show their trust in their God? By their actions. Okay. Now, this is where your question came from. Who delivers them? My quick answer for you is, it depends on your translation. Okay? We talked about this in New Converts class Sunday. We talked about it 2 months ago, but Sunday we talked about it in example of Daniel. The angel of the Lord in the Old Testament, almost always, I don't know of an exception to this rule, is talking about God the Son, who John chapter 1 calls the Word, who when he comes to earth we call Jesus. Some translations have here the angel of the Lord. The ESV has it, I think it calls it a son of the gods, plural. Here's the problem of building a whole doctrine that is Jesus based on this. This is how Nebuchadnezzar sees him. And Nebuchadnezzar believes in gods, yes, but how would he have knowledge of the one and true living God? So it's either an angel or it's Jesus, but either way, we're actually having to take Nebuchadnezzar's explanation of who he thinks it is. So it's not like it's a person that actually understands the one and true living God explaining who it is. I would have no problem with you saying it's Jesus, but it's a little iffy.
Daniel was already interpreted and agreed.
That's right. So he has some knowledge of the true God. How are they described afterwards? Their bodies were not burned, so their skin was normal. Their hair was not burned. You know how... Have you ever burnt hair? When I was a kid, I used to drop it in the candle, and it would go, and then it would stink really bad. Their clothes were not burned. Think about when you're around fireworks and just the tiniest little spark will burn a hole in your clothes, but there's no clothes burned. There's no smell. Just walk by a campfire and you're going to smell like it, right? No smell. And then we have Nebuchadnezzar make a new decree. Therefore, I make a decree. Any person... I don't know if I read 28. No, I didn't. I did read 28. We're going to start at 29 next week and read the new decree. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you before you leave, please. Do the next homework because we need to go over it next week or we're going to fall behind. If you need any of chapter 4's material, or if you don't have chapter 4, if you don't have that homework, come to me, because I've got a lot of copies of that. And the kids are coming, but we need to make some applications. Come on in, kids. Come on in, kids. But, hey, here's the easy application you've been hearing your whole life, but it's still a good one. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael, teach us that we need to stand up for our belief in God, even if it costs our life. Now, that's easier to say because we're in America, so what if it cost us our job? What if it cost us arguments with our family? What if it cost us a neighbor that doesn't like us anymore? Yes, we still stand up for God.